Welcome everybody to a brand new episode. This is your host Ras, and I'm back here now sharing memories. Memories attributed to my favorite English club, Manchester United, this time. And there's a reason behind it. That's because we are organizing a giveaway. We're giving away Manchester United's third kit from this season, 2024-25. The third kit is the one in white. So we're giving away that jersey. But to win that, you need to listen to the end of the episode where we'll have three questions on Manchester United. The person that can answer those questions first will win the jersey. So where do you go and answer the questions? We'll let you know later on in the show. So yes, Manchester United, where do I start? I'll start from the very beginning, of course, on how I became a fan. I became a fan in 1991, very peculiar reason, or rather, probably something you would expect as a child in 1991. I was 7 years old. So as a 7-year-old, my father introduced me to this club, Manchester United. And he, by just mentioning that there was a player that he felt looked like me, which isn't the case, of course. And that player is Lee Sharpe, and he was a dazzling winger. So started watching the highlights of the English Premier League. Sorry, in those days was the English First Division, and started watching the highlights and looking out for this guy Lee Sharpe, and that's how I became a Manchester United fan. Lee Sharpe became the first player, first favorite Manchester United player for me, and yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. The 1991 European Cup Winners' Cup was the first ever triumph I witnessed as a fan. I didn't watch the game, but I remember waking up in the wee hours. There was about time to go to school on that day. And I woke up and found out the score, and quite delighted that we had beaten Barcelona. And then later on, you watch the highlights of the game and how he went. So yeah, so that was my first triumph I witnessed as a Manchester United fan. And of course, it was a very good period to be a Manchester United fan. So my years in primary school and secondary school went very well in that aspect because United won the lot. I started supporting just at the cusp of the glory days because 91 they hadn't won anything yet, or rather they were just winning cups here. I've mentioned the European Cup Winners' Cup. I missed the FA Cup, and what followed was the League Cup, known back then as the Rumbelows Cup as well. League Cup, we had the UEFA Super Cup, and my first full season as a Manchester United fan, we missed out on winning the Old English First Division, lost out to Leeds United. In that season, we bottled it, I would say, because we were in the lead for quite a big chunk of the season. And then towards the end, we started dropping a lot of points, drawing games, losing games, and that proved detrimental. So Leeds overtook us and won the league. And that was the final season of the Old First Division as well. And then 92-93, destiny changed. And yeah, the glory days of Manchester United begin. And I know people listening in, maybe you're not a Manchester United fan. A lot of people my generation have become Manchester United fans because obviously United were the leading team, and that in those days they were successful. You might call us glory hunters, but if you stick with the club even till today, then I don't think you can call them glory hunters because everyone starts somewhere. The generation before me, they would have, a lot of them supported Liverpool because Liverpool were the best team, was the best team around in those days in the 80s and 70s. They were the leading lights in those days. And yeah, on the back of that, a lot of people started supporting Liverpool because they liked the way they played. They won the trophies and cups. So naturally, people will be attracted to it. And that's the same way my generation got attracted to Manchester United. Not all, of course, but quite a sizable chunk would be Manchester United fans on the back of the success of Manchester United. So yes, that's going through some moments like which team was my favorite Manchester United team of all time. I managed to watch of course, 99. I think before we get to the teams, let's talk about the progression of how we started, watching Manchester United matches and following the results. Because at the start of my time as a Manchester United fan, it was just that, following the results. The teletext was the first way I found out of the scores. And then there was, of course, the newspapers where you would get a bit more information. And then there was the highlights show that came on every Sunday in Singapore. So that's how you got to know about Manchester United's results, the games, the goals, how they played. That's how we got the information. But of course, the other thing you got to take note of was the results that we get on teletext, and the games that were shown on the highlights of the games that were shown were not did not match, weren't concurrent. So in that sense, that it wasn't the latest highlights of the first division games in those days. So, for example, Saturday they played their games, and whatever the scores are on the Sunday, you would not get to watch that Saturday's results. You would get to watch it a week after. So you're watching a week back in terms of the highlights. So yeah, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, we had it on the news channels as well. They showed highlights. There were, along the way, as the years went by, I remember it was shown on Malaysian TV. TV3 used to show the matches, used to put aerial out, but still we didn't get to watch that many, because even if they did show matches, they did not show Manchester United every week. It was just, each week they change teams, and there'll be different fixtures that they will highlight to show each week. It's only one fixture a week that will be shown. So yeah, as I mentioned, as the years progressed, and I got the opportunity to start watching more of United's matches live on TV. And as we progressed through the 90s, got to the mid 90s, late 90s, and that started changing to the 2000s, of course. And yeah, so those were good days. In fact, as a United fan, you got to watch. They won a lot of trophies. They were the best team around. But yeah, and talk about best team around, which was my favorite Manchester United team. It would have to be the 93-94 team, because that team for me is a special team. That was the first time where I watched the Manchester United team that was all conquering and powerful. We had so many explosive figures in that team that were leaders, that were strong personalities, hot-headed personalities, including the manager himself. And it all worked out. They played well on the pitch. If they needed to play well, they could play well. And in those days as well, Premier League grounds weren't as good as you see today. They weren't as good as what you have today. So yeah, so you would have games where we played on bumpy grounds, muddy grounds, and yeah, in those kind of grounds, they needed to rough it out. They could rough it out as well. And then you had teams like Wimbledon as well, who would be kicking you, and the laws were a bit more lenient in those days. So they could get off with things like that, and they could rough it out with teams like that, and stand their ground. So that's fantastic to see. They could play well if they needed to. They could rough it out if they needed to. So they were an all-weather team, you could say. And that's why they were the best team in that year, especially 93-94. The only pity in that season was missing out on the League Cup, because I really felt we would have deserved winning a domestic treble in that season, but we lost the League Cup to Aston Villa in the final, and that wasn't a very good memory. Didn't watch that game, but of course, getting news that we lost that wasn't a great memory. And it was a season where United won a lot more than they lost. But ironically, we lost 2 games, home and away, to this team called Chelsea. And it isn't the Chelsea of today, or of the last maybe 20 years ago, because that Chelsea wasn't the same, didn't have the kind of star power, star players that they have in the last 20 years. So losing to that Chelsea, which was a mid-table team at best. Their best player was probably their player coach, Glenn Hoddle. And losing to them home and away was a bit of a shock. Then meeting them in the final was a very good memory, because I watched that match live. It was a memory that sticks with me till today. The FA Cup final of 1994. Watched it live on TV, and it was a great final to watch. Won 4-0, avenged the two defeats that we had in the league against them. So yeah, that for me, that will always be my most favorite Manchester United team. Of course, the 99 team was special. They went on to do something no other Manchester United team has done since then. The 2008 team was also very good. That team could have matched the 99 team, but they were extremely unlucky in the FA Cup against Portsmouth, I remember. And yeah, so sometimes even in this kind of cases where you want to win where you want to win trophies, titles, accolades like this, the treble, it's not easy. Sometimes you need luck on your side as well to win uh, win trophies and medals. So that was those were the good times. Favorite players, of course, I mentioned Lee Sharp. Then later on, Eric Cantona, the way he dragged the 1995-96 team coming back from suspension, dragging the team to glory, winning the double that season and completing the double-double because we won the double in 94 and then we did it again in 96. So that was the double-double. So we had so many games that season where we won 1-0 and thanks to Cantona. We had all these young guys have broken through. Fergie's fledglings, they had broken through, and this was the guy that was, leading United. I don't think nowadays you will get a player like that because football has changed a lot. You don't get characters like that who can single-handedly drag the team. Of course, that team had also other great players. Had Roy Keane, had Peter Schmeichel was in goal. He had a massive season as well. Schmeichel, Steve Bruce was there. Gary Pallister. These players were all there. These were the core of the team. If for the young players to rely on, those that were coming through, this was the core. But then the one that stood out was of course Cantona. He stood out head and shoulders above everyone and led by example. He didn't shout. And when you watched him play, he didn't shout and scream and rant a lot on the pitch, but he made his quality talk for himself. So that was inspirational for the players, and that's how Cantona became my favorite Manchester United player. And then that's just been it. Lee Sharp and Cantona, my two favorite Manchester United players. Since then, of course, we have had many great players I've enjoyed watching. Not so much in the recent years, but yeah, in those years, of course, a lot of players enjoy watching. A lot of players I like, but not never anyone that became my favorite since then. Regrets, as a United fan in those days, I would say we should have won a bit more in Europe. Maybe one more, two more Champions League titles. It was already known as Champions League back then. So I think that's one of the greatest disappointment as a United fan in those days. I mean, you can't win everything. That's true, but perhaps winning the Champions League one or two more times would have probably solidified our position as the leading lights in those days. Because most of the time, like when Liverpool were the best team in 70s and 80s, they won quite a few Champions League titles as well to match their glory domestically. And then I go on to other leagues. Of course, you have your Real Madrid, AC Milan. In the 90s, they were really strong. They matched their glory in domestically with European success as well. So that kind of thing would have been the perfect amalgamation. It didn't happen, and it was not to be. Some near moment, some maybe tactically we weren't right. We maybe were a bit naive, a bit gung ho in our approach in the European matches, and that cost us. So that's one of the regrets I have as a United fan from those days. That's about it for the United in those days. We got so many good things to speak about, and a lot of people have spoken about it. A lot more far illustrious people have spoken about it, members of the squad. and we enjoy listening to it even to today, no matter how many times it's repeated or it's shared, because it's poignant. Especially considering what is happening today with Manchester United is poignant, and of course, whatever is happening today, I was always philosophical about it, because I knew all good things will come to an end. It's bound to happen. It's never been such a case that a team is great all the time, because we saw it before us. We saw Liverpool having a great generation. I didn't see, of course, because I was a bit ahead of my time, but you knew about it that Liverpool was great in the 70s and 80s. And then in the 90s, they weren't quite as good, and they went quite a number of years, 30 odd years, without winning the league title before they finally did it in the COVID years. So, but even then, they have not really been domestically dominant as they were. They've come close. They've played second fiddle to Manchester City in recent years, albeit being their closest challengers, but still they've been second fiddle in that sense. So for Manchester United as well, you knew the good days will come to an end, and it ended. And unfortunately, very unlike other European big teams, it seems to me like the English big teams struggle to rediscover their glory days. Because Liverpool 30 years to win their Premier League title. They came close in the time that we were successful. They had near moments. I remember Roy Evans' Liverpool team was good. Gerard Houlier's Liverpool team as well. And then Rafa Benitez's Liverpool team was probably the one that ran us the closest to winning the league title. And yeah, if this had happened to maybe Bayern Munich or Real Madrid within, let's say, 2 years or so, they'll be back winning the league title. Teams like that, all the big teams in Italy, in Europe, in Germany, in Spain, Europe in particular, all these really big powerhouse European teams, they won't go that many years without winning the league title and agreeing to play a mediocre role in the proceedings. It will never happen. But it happens in the English league. I'm not too sure why. And the downfall of United has been terrible. Now, of course, speaking to you now, it's been a week since United lost to Liverpool, and quite comprehensively. And there's one point I want to make as well on that, and that is, in the time where United was successful and Liverpool wasn't successful, I never remembered a time where Liverpool were comprehensively beaten by us in our duels. Yes, we beat them 4-0 in Old Trafford in the 2002-2003 season. We've beaten them 3-0 once or twice, maybe, at Old Trafford. But whenever we go to Anfield, it's always been a tough match. We've won by the odd goal. Never been like a comprehensive, 3-0 hammering of Liverpool or anything of that sort. But in our time that we are struggling right now, since we won the league title in 2012-13, Liverpool has beaten us 5-0 at Old Trafford, 7-0 in Anfield. Beaten us 3-0 here at Old Trafford again. They've beaten us 3-0 in Anfield also, I believe, in Brendan Rodgers' time. And also at Old Trafford, I think, yeah. So they've beaten us quite comprehensively. So that is probably a bit of an embarrassment. Not too much of a worry, but because it's already happened, but an embarrassment because it feels like the players never really understood the magnitude of this match against Liverpool. So no matter how bad you have been in the season or you're doing, this is the one that you cannot afford to lose that badly. But having said that, if you talk about performances, you talk about this season and talk about performances. I didn't watch the first match, but we won that one. The other two matches that I've watched, I felt against Brighton, we should have at least got a draw. I think that would have been a fairest result to have got a draw. They scored the first goal out of nowhere, and we were actually playing pretty decent football. A lot of people have seen the results of the Brighton game, have seen the results of the Liverpool game, have been reactionary towards it to say, oh my God, it's all doom and gloom. And naturally, now there's a lot of negative emotions or uh, with United fans surrounding them. There'll be clouds surrounding them. I think the best metaphor for it would be clouds, dark clouds surrounding United fans, because that's what it is right now. Everyone around us, whichever podcast you listen to, is talking about United and their struggles and being in crisis, and not the first time we are struggling or in crisis. And everyone's talking about it. Even our ex-players are talking about it. A lot of people getting quite emotional about it. Their reaction is also quite emotional. But if you look at the performances itself, I think from last season, I think there's been some improvement. We're pressing better from the front. We are not too open to play against like last season. We'll be more solid in that sense. But the lapses in concentration, I believe, is what is getting us, because in defense, we can defend. Actually, we've shown we can defend. Like even against Liverpool, before we conceded the first goal, yeah, they had a goal that that was disallowed, and that was a bit of a scare. But then they scored their first goal. When they scored their first goal, before that, in that period before they scored their first goal, we were actually defending quite well. The four defenders we had, they were defending quite well. We were giving away goals already before we conceded, but so were they, and they were being pressed, and we were winning the ball off them as well. So it was quite an even match before we conceded. So that's perspective talking about. You need to, if you watch the match, you would have noticed that what is a concern is that once he went 2-0, I think heads dropped, and it feels like the mentality is a bit fragile. The emotion, the morale in the team is quite low, in the sense that it's low on confidence. That when you have a setback like that, you don't have those of course, the days of rousing comebacks of the past are long gone, because that was then. There was that team, those teams that we had in the past were special teams, they're special characters, and they were used to winning matches, winning trophies. They had the experience, they had the hunger, they had the desire, had someone leading them. So when you have all of that in your factor, then you will obviously, be more capable of producing those kind of comebacks. But when you don't, and you are being hammered from pillar to post, you have got lots of negative feedback whichever channel you open to, on social media, everyone's attacking you and criticizing you. Morale is low all across the board. Then it's less likely that you're going to produce a comeback of that sort. And that's what happened. I think once the second goal went in, I think heads dropped. We never quite recovered from that, and we never got back into the game. And also the other concerning thing was that how are we gonna score goals? Because it seems like we are struggling for goals. It happened last season as well, when we had chances to score, we didn't take them. And that makes a difference, because in games like against Brighton, against Liverpool, when you're on top of your opponent, you're doing well, you're pressing well from the front. But when you press well from the front, there has to be an end result, a chance created, a goal scored. That has to be the end product. There's no use pressing from the front. You win the ball, and then you take a long time to do something with the ball. Like you don't know what to do with the ball. You misplace the pass. You underhit it. You overplay it, and then the chance is gone. That happened a lot in the Liverpool game as well, because we won the ball in a good area, in good areas, in fact, not just a area, but in good areas. And when we played the ball, it was either underplayed, overhit, not the right option to take. And that's it. The chance goes begging. Then we don't have a chance created. No chance created would mean no shots on target. And eventually, I mean, the statistics show that we had 3 shots on target in total. We couldn't score. Liverpool had 3 shots, and they scored from all 3. And that is the difference. The cutting edge in the final third, that is still missing in the team. Not sure what the team does in the training. You always wonder. In fact, it's not just under Eric Ten Hag is also all under previous management as well. You always wonder what does the team do in training, and even on set pieces, we used to be great. I really miss David Beckham and his set pieces and his crosses. Those kind of players. David Beckham was the one that comes to mind when it comes to crosses and set pieces because it was very accurate, deadly. You have one set when we win a set piece, we could score from it. Nowadays, you win a set piece, I don't have any hope that we're going to score from it because it goes nowhere. It's either it's blocked by the first defender, it goes somewhere in the mix, and then that's it. The ball is cleared, and we are counter attack again, and then we are outnumbered, and we could risk conceding a goal. You get a free kick. I don't remember when was the last time we scored from a direct free kick as well. So players like that we miss. And we have had players like, Michael Carrick has been part of the coaching staff. We had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as our manager. Now we've got Ruud van Nistelrooy as a coach. You would wish that these guys can impart their quality and ability onto the players, but it's not easy because not every great player can be a great coach. That's what I feel. That's my opinion, in fact. And I'm kind of right because not many have been great players and coaches. Those that are normally great tend to be not really great players. So I guess those that can't play will teach, and those that can play can't teach. So that is an issue because they can't seem to impart their knowledge, their experience, their ability onto the present crop. It could also be that the present crop isn't listening, isn't taking on board whatever that they are telling them to do or teaching them to do on the training ground. So that is why you don't see the results of it. So it could be it's both ways. It goes both ways, I guess. And I would really like when Carrick was part of the coaching staff, or Solskjaer was part of the coaching staff, or the manager, in fact, he was. And now when Nistelrooy was part of the coaching staff, I would actually want them to play rather than be a part of the coaching staff, because I'm sure even if they played today, they would be better than the players that we have and would have made a difference. But yeah, there's all those is of course wishful thinkings and if only moments, if only they were that many years younger, and they obviously can't last forever. So yeah, that's where Manchester United is right now. We're not out of the blocks. Backroom, in the boardroom level, we seem to have sorted things out. We've got someone new in charge in terms of in Ineos, and they've got in people that we feel are among the best, if not the best, in their positions as technical director, as director of football, as a CEO of football, and yeah, it seems like we have that in place right now. But still early days. They got a lot to work on. I think one of the major concerns is that Manchester United has become a graveyard for players that come to United with great reputation. Their careers go nowhere once they come to United. Not many players have shone since they've joined United. And that is a big concern. They need to figure out what is happening down there, whether it's the mentality, whether it's the culture, is it coming from from being paid too much so they lose their hunger? Is it from the coaching? What is the issue there? That's something they need to figure out and sort it, because that needs sorting out. If not, it'll be very difficult for us to attract good players that we need to improve the team, because people will be fearful of coming to United. Even good managers for that, and for that part, they'll be reluctant to join United because it's become a graveyard for managers and players. But Ineos have to sort that part out. Of course, it's early days. There were people calling for the head of Eric Ten Hag, but it will never be the case. I never thought that Ineos would sack Ten Hag so early in the season. It's only been 3 games. Yes, we've lost 2 out of the 3, one of which was against our bitter rivals and quite comprehensively. But he still has time to make things right. The transfer window has closed, so the squad is settled. We've got all the players that I believe he wanted, and now he can build on it. So once this episode comes out, we've got a game coming up on Sunday against Southampton. So, or rather Saturday against Southampton, and then he's got a chance right now to get things right, and hopefully you can solve the issue of how we're gonna get goals, because we seem to be struggling big time. There's that season where 2 seasons ago where Marcus Rashford had a purple patch in that season where he was prolific and scored a lot. That since has dried up and is still not there yet. He's still frustrating to watch at times. So and then again, you cannot be just relying on just one guy to score all the goals for us. So it can't be that just because Marcus Rashford is struggling a lot, the others are not can't contribute. The players that we sign in forward positions, Hoyland and Zirkzee, they got to step up. Everyone's got to step up. In fact, it doesn't seem like Hoyland looks more like a classic number 9, but besides that, it doesn't seem like we have that many options up front in the sense of a classic striker that's going to score us goals, lots of goals. Goals got to come from somewhere, got to come from the wingers, got to come from the strikers, the midfielders. We got to improve our set pieces. That's always another avenue to score. But we got to score. We got to do well in both ends of the box. In fact, we got to score on this side. You got to make better decisions when you attack. You got to choose the right pass, right weight of pass when we attack. And when we defend, when we lose the ball, we got to be better at tracking back. You got to track back in numbers, track back with determination, with desire, not half-hearted. Got to track back. And also you got to be tactically, you got to be wary that when you lose the ball, who is covering, who is in which position, all that needs to be sorted out. I believe they work on stuff like that in training. That needs to be sorted out. In defense, we cannot lose focus. We cannot defend well for 70, 80 minutes and then lose focus for 10 minutes and lose the game. You can't do that. You got to defend well for an entire game, all the way till the time the referee blows the whistle, however many minutes it might be, 95 minutes, 96, 100 minutes even. You got to defend. You got to keep your focus all the way in. That was what happened in the first season, where we really defended very well, especially at home. And not just the 4 defenders, the midfielders in front as well did their job in the first season under Ten Hag. That's all that's gone missing. We got to get that back. Personally, I feel playing with just 2 midfielders has left us a bit short-changed. We need to play with 3 central midfielders. I think most clubs are now playing with 3 central midfielders. That gives them the extra legs in midfield and to come back and cover in case they lose the ball, and as well as to attack. That's something we need to get in check with. We got to get ourselves updated in that sense and play with 3 in midfield. That's what we need to do. I hope it happens, because it's not been happening. It's not been addressed, and it feels like a player like Casemiro or a defensive midfielder. Now we've signed Manuel Ugarte. This player, it seems like, is like the all-conquering, all-powering midfielder, omnipresent everywhere along the midfield. He'll sweep everything up. One man to do all the job of everyone else, while everyone else just goes and attack. It feels like that's how we are building up to play, which is a bit dangerous and not really clever. But I hope it's resolved, because I'm also tired of changing managers, because every manager comes in, you have a good moment that is not built on, and then it goes south after that. It looks like it's going in that direction for Ten Hag. So only he can save his own job. If he doesn't improve, he doesn't change things, doesn't get things right. He's already sounding delusional in his press conferences from last season. That's always a bad sign, because it's a sign that maybe he could be sacked already whenever a manager sounds delusional. But it's all in his hands. So if he wants to keep his job, he's got to improve and If he doesn't improve, I'm sure he'll get sacked pretty soon. Maybe by Christmas or before that, if things don't improve. So yeah, that's where United is at the moment. And thanks for hearing. You share your memories as well. If you're a United fan, share your memories of supporting Manchester United, how you became a United fan. And now it's time for the giveaway. The questions. I've got 3 questions. Let me get those questions up. Okay, so question number 1 is, who is Manchester United's first goal scorer in the English Premier League? So when the league changed from being called the English First Division to the English Premier League, which was the Manchester United player, or rather, who is the Manchester United player who scored the first ever goal in the Premier League era for the club, of course. The next question is, which goalkeeper kept the most consecutive clean sheets for Manchester United, and how many did he get? So consecutive clean sheets, and that applies to all competitions. So not just the Premier League, all competitions. So which goalkeeper was that, and how many clean sheets did he keep? And the last question is, which former Manchester United player won an AFC award while with the club? AFC will be Asian Football Confederation Award while he was with Manchester United. So where do you go and answer this? You can all go to our Facebook page. In the comment section of this interview, you can state your answer. Don't go to YouTube. You'll be ineligible. Go to our Facebook page and give us your answers there. The first person to give us the right answers will win the Manchester United 2024, not 2004, but 2024-25 third kit. So yes, hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm not sure if it's short, if it's not. But whatever it is, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Do like, subscribe to us. We are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. We are on all these platforms, so do follow us, like us, subscribe us, share it as well with others who would love content from the 90s, football content from the 90s and the noughties. Share it with everyone. This is me, Ras, signing out.